Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. Our first order of the day will be the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so our superintendent isn't here tonight. He is severely ill with the flu, and he did call me today, give me a choice. He can either bring his bucket with him in case he needed to toss his cookies. When I told him to cuddle with his bucket and stay at home. So I would love to have him here, but not that much. Anita, don't sit down.
You're
I just have a couple of procedural items. There's my breath. I'm just running up the stairs. Okay, first of all, I'd like to encourage the board to always use the microphone because sometimes we have a hard time understanding it. And the second thing is we have the 3-minute comment period before the board meeting, which is great. But commissioners and the city council have also a comment period. Well, actually not a comment period, but they allow comment and input when an agenda topic is being discussed. So when the board is done discussing whatever they're discussing, I would ask that you ask for input from the audience, and at that time allow that input before you take the vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Thanks for the reminder on the microphone, by the way. I know that,
I'm terrible.
well, we're still getting used to
I'm
these
terrible
things.
at that.
Yes, so. Okay, our first order of business is the consent agenda. Talk into the microphone.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
been moved and second. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Just turn them all on and leave them on. If you can't get them on, Matt will help you.
Mine came on for,
You can only do 3 on it.
Only 3 on at a time? All right, well,
well, that one maybe could go off.
yeah, for now. Okay, so the first thing is the approval of the alternate authorization teacher to new certification, Ezra Stafford. Mr. Albertson, would you like to take us through that, please?
Sure.
Okay, wait. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That should work.
So Ezra Stafford was hired as an art teacher at Sandpoint High School. He has a bachelor's degree in art and a master's degree in fine arts, but and has experience teaching at the collegiate level, and is a great fit and great hire. But we need to work with him to, with the University of Idaho plan to work on finishing his K-12 teaching certificate. So the experience is there, the degree is there. It's just the K-12 teaching certificate, which University of Idaho, we're working with the plan. So that's the approval there. But we're asking for
Go
it.
ahead.
How long does it take?
The plan can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So we approve it for this year?
correct. That's what we're asking for.
Does he have to go through the student teaching bit and all that stuff?
No, the teaching experience that he's had will count for that. I mean, so they'll put a program together with that. And so, yeah.
Okay, it requires a motion.
I'd make, if you turn that one off, I'll make,
Thanks, Tom.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the alternate authorization for Ezra Stafford as presented.
I'd make a second.
Okay, any more questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next one is the approval of alternate authorization teacher new certification, Brian Berg, and that's Casey McLaughlin. Mr. McLaughlin? There you go.
All right, so Brian Berg we just hired him for a special education teacher. He is certified K through 8 already. He's been a parapro at our school for quite a long time in the special ed department. He's got 13 years in the special ed classroom experience. And so when the position came open, he was a natural fit. He's doing a very, very good job already. It should take him about 2 years or less to get his special ed endorsement is what he needs. He doesn't need the full credential. He's already a credentialed K through 8 teacher. So,
Okay.
So does that require, once again, student teaching and that kind of?
no, it doesn't. Because he already has his K through 8 certification, what it is just adding that on. And Brian, he has been doing the job for a long time as a paraprofessional, and honestly has been in there with several of the past special education teachers. And so he's really, I would say he's as prepared as anyone can be at this point for that position.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the alternative authorization teacher to new certification for Brian Berg.
Second.
It's been moved second. Any more questions for Mr. McLaughlin? No?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate
Thank you.
that. Okay, so Sean is not here, but our Chief Financial Operations Officer, Lisa Howes, is. And so she's going to kind of talk on behalf of Sean and herself for the next item, which is the plant facility levy draft. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening.
We're on.
So for those of you that attended the last school board meeting, the administration was charged to bring back to our board a draft follow-up survey to the August 30th, 2016 plant levy. And the board has received that, and I have copies to hand out to the audience once we move through some other pieces first. So the agenda item, I believe, reads survey and timeline. Really what the superintendent has prepared isn't necessarily a timeline, but other suggested next steps for the school district. So I'd like to just move through those. So the first is to administer an online survey and phone survey, and to utilize a public opinion research firm to gather this information. The district, specifically myself and Sean Woodward, have been working with More Information, which is a firm based out of Portland, Oregon. They've been in business for 35 years, and we, as a school district, worked with them in January of 2006 as our school board was putting together a plant levy that ultimately was successful and tripled the size of Kootenai and added a wing to Sagal Elementary and another $5 million worth of capital improvements district-wide. More Information is intimately familiar with working with school districts in Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. In the 2006 work, we conducted only a phone survey, or More Information did. Here, we are suggesting that it be both a phone survey and an online survey. And the cost estimate for utilizing More Information would be between $17,000 and $24,000, dependent on the number of respondents by phone and online that we choose as the district. How the survey would be administered differs depending on if it's the phone survey or an email survey. So I'll start with the email survey because that's maybe newer, at least certainly for our district, using a public opinion research firm. We would suggest sending the survey to our parents. There are about 550 households of parents, and to staff. We do have staff email addresses for just about 700 staff. We would also put a link on our district website that then links to more information, because all of the survey tabulation is confidential. So no school board member, no district staff would be able to tie a respondent to their answers. And the way the email survey works is more information would send out a cover letter, and then they would distribute it several times. There's generally about a 30% response rate. That would be high, so we would expect between the parents, the staff, and any community members that choose to go online, maybe there would be 500 respondents. Then there would be sort of a reminder, and probably the whole email survey process would be open for about 2 weeks. There's generally, once it's sent out, kind of a big chunk of respondents, and then a reminder, and then there's a little more, and then generally that second reminder doesn't actually, I guess, warrant that many, or garnish that many more responses. And then the district could select to either have those that respond first, or have a ceiling on the number of responses, or just to take all the responses and do a random selection. But the way Moore would administer that, no one email address could respond more than once. Then the phone survey is done a little differently, and so more information obviously trains their phone survey people. They would conduct the phone survey in the evening hours between 7 and 9 p.m., or we could, on weekdays, we could modify that, and between noon and 7 p.m. on the weekends. They would verify and monitor a minimum of 10% of every interviewer's work while it's in process, or by recontacting respondents. And the phone survey would be taking those that participated, that 8,500 participants in our August 30th levy, and proportionally by precinct. Of course, there are many precincts, well over 20, and they're suggesting 200 respondents that proportionally they would complete phone surveys by the precinct. And then the deliverables, both through the email and the phone survey, would be what they call a top-line report, which gives the questionnaire with each question with the percentages of answers. Let's see, what else did they say? Cross-tabulation tables for each question with unlimited, and I'm sorry, I don't really know what banner points means. I'll have to research that. And then they'll give an executive summary and some kind of strategic analysis. And then, sort of anything else we as a board, as a school district would ask. What you as a board did not ask us at the last board meeting, but Sean and myself felt we should at least present as another option, is develop our own online and paper survey, similar to what our strategic planning survey was like about 3 years ago. This isn't the administration's recommendation, but we felt like it's certainly an option that perhaps the board may or may not want to discuss. So I'll continue on with the other proposed next steps, and then maybe we can recircle to that one piece. So then we would also suggest that the board have a workshop to go over the results of the survey and to allow for the board and the community to have, I guess I'm going to say interactive dialogue. That would be one. Two would be to then broaden the makeup of the facility review committee prior to moving forward through any, and to do that, this time we would have an application and a selection process. Three, to begin the process of developing a long-range plan for the Lake Pend Oreille Alternative High School. And four, finally, to commence work with the Facility Review Committee with the goal of making a recommendation to the school board for some kind of facility effort in the future. Are there questions on what I've presented so far?
Say the fourth one again, please.
To commence work with the, I don't want to say newly, but the new membership of the Facility Review Committee with the goal of that committee then bringing a recommendation to the board in the future on facility needs for the school district.
So that would include people from the previous committee as well as new members?
The idea here is that it would be an application process. Probably, for example, myself, I sat on the previous committee, our facility director sat on the previous committee, our superintendent sat on the previous committee. I would surmise at least those three members would mirror the first committee.
Go ahead. No, sorry.
I have a couple of questions, but they're regarding the survey. Do you want them now, or?
Can we, no, we'll circle back on that in a minute. I want to cover this.
Timeline.
Yeah, I want to cover the, well, the kind of, you know what, it all works together. So I'm just going to start. I mean, I've had several conversations with Mr. Woodward in regards to this, and I'll just start with just my preference, which is I like the in-house version, which we did 3 years ago. I'm not of the persuasion that I want to spend any more money at this time on any other surveys. Now, having said that, I love data, and at first blush it sounded really good, and then thinking about it, and then and you know, talking to the community, I think we can narrow down three pretty major areas of which there were either strong disagreements or people felt that we needed to do more work in those areas. And the total dollar volume was A. Mm-hmm. B, while we relied on a very convincing argument that the industry standards for the remodel costs were sound, there's a lot of folks that feel we should dive deeper into that and get more detailed information. We can reach out to contractors in the industry, try to get numbers that folks are more comfortable with, and see that may or may not line up with what that process, you know, the numbers we were given in that process. But at least we would have something that's a little more definitive. And then the third thing is resolve the LPOHS question, because we can't even start to decide what school to build if we don't answer the you know, the overarching question of what is that school now. It's a very unique situation where you know, if we move it over towards the high school, that's a different philosophy on how you on the mission and how you teach, than as opposed to being standalone. And the superintendent can go through that process with his staff. I don't think that's going to be the work of the committee until that's work with the staff is done. Then he comes back and said, we want to do this. Now, if this is building it, rebuilding where it is, remodeling where it is, or moving it over to the high school, we need to answer that question. So that's one of the things that would be tasked with that group. And I think those are the three major things that were, now, there could be some finer points, and believe me, you're talking to a guy that loves data, but I think that we cover those, and we can open up with an online survey and try to push as much traffic to it as we can and get a lot of commentary. That combined with the workshops, and I would like to see, instead of waiting until the committee's absolutely complete with their work, I would prefer to maybe get interim reports from them as they come in, and then we if they're going down the track that everyone agrees is a good place to go, that they keep doing it, instead of getting all the way to the end, and then we're going, man, you guys completely missed the mark, we would, go back and start over. I think it would be best. And the other thing is, last time, we had a couple board members on that committee. I'm not in favor of that, and this may not be a very good analogy, but when we hold a student hearing and we're the judge and jury, you're not part of the investigation. You're not part, you have to look at the evidence and not be tainted by being a part of it, and then having a vested interest in what that outcome is. And I think that we should be sitting in more objective places and not be part of that. So anyway, those are all my thoughts in regards to the direction that we would go. And I think that all of those things can be launched and started immediately.
So I have a couple questions.
You should be able to, well.
Okay. I do have a couple of responses to that. The only piece it sounds like we'd miss, and I'll defer to you, you talked about you and Sean working up an in-house survey, and we would get the online version. We'd just be missing the phone survey piece of it, correct? We'd reach out in essentially the same numbers with the online survey, doing it in-house that we would through this company, more information. Is that correct?
No, I don't think that's correct, and here's why. The or option, where we develop something in-house, is contingent upon having email addresses. So we have email addresses for parents and staff.
Could we link a SurveyMonkey to the LPO website? And
We could do that.
I'm just saying
what would be absent is the phone survey is specifically targeted to those that voted in the plant levy on August 30th, 2016. So you're missing
a chance to
a very different voice. And that phone survey, again, to repeat myself, by the professional company would guarantee that by those that voted by precinct, that proportionally we get those responses, because we know in looking at the variance of yes and no votes by precinct, there's a fair disparity.
So if we are...
And I augment that by also saying the timeline using the professionals would be, if the board moved forward with that option, and the questions were finalized, and again, there's a draft, they would be prepared, to start that work, the phoning immediately, and they project that would take about a week to a week and a half. And then the email survey, there are a lot of open-ended questions on the phone survey, and the email survey would go out as the second step, and here's why. In email surveys, if you have just these open-ended questions, generally people don't take the time to type out full responses, so the recommendation from More Information is that you take the most, through the phone survey, the most regular, the highest like responses, and then put them into the email survey.
What is the plan for a budget for this, the 17 to 24,000 that you mentioned? Where do we have that in our budget?
Right. So, again, we don't have any dollars, and I mean no dollars. We have $1,000 in our plant fund. In our general fund, we have, as a district, by practice now for about 8 years, in our facilities department, if there are non-expended dollars from a prior fiscal year that aren't tied to staffing, we carry that forward specifically for the facilities department as contingency money, we call it. You could call it whatever, because we don't have any plant funds. And utility costs last year and snow plowing costs were substantially down. So the contingency fund for the facility department would pay for the cost of the survey.
Anyone else, Matt?
Yeah, let me turn this off.
Yeah. You know, at this point, I'm not sure that throwing more money at...
You don't have to hold it, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not convinced that spending more money now is the way to go. I would rather see some in-house work done before we decide to go outside and hire a consultant. I mean, I just don't, we pretty much know from how people voted and all the letters to the editor, et cetera, how people felt about the levy, that it was too much money to spend at one point in time. And I don't think we considered any other alternatives, such as remodeling or doing the biggest problems first. So I would not be in favor of spending money right now on an outside consultant.
Thank you, Matt. Joan, do you have anything? I'm joking. Come on. Go ahead.
Should I tell you what I wrote?
No,
I guess my questions would surround how do we ensure that the community review facility or the review committee really represents a broad spectrum. So I guess I would like to maybe understand a little bit more how we are considering getting a good selection or a broad array of people in the community. I guess if there's any discussion been...
I can tell you the discussion that I had with the superintendent, and that is he wants to, it's virtually the same process as last time, but open it up and ask people that are interested to submit. He's got an application process that he goes through, and his goal is to make it a more diverse committee that has varying talents in it. So that, I mean, in other words, we heard the criticism, and he wants to remedy that, but the process would be to open it up, see what comes in the door, maybe, hopefully, there's more than what you need, okay? But then that just gives you a lot to select from. And then when he comes down to here's what I want to do, then he's going to bring it to us. And we got a final look at it before he moves forward on it.
Would it be Sean's task to be the one to administer who's on or not on that?
He would be yes, because all right. So as the CEO of the company, we task him with instructions on what we want him to do, which is what I just outlined and what's been discussed. And so he would do that. He would come back. We look at it, and if it's in alignment with what, where we want to go, then we cut them loose, and if not, then we can send them back to the drawing board. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think...
it's a good question.
No, I just don't think we want to get, like you mentioned, we don't want to get forever down the road and go, okay, we maybe missed the mark. I think we need to be having that check-in periodically.
Right, and then so that's how, that part would start, but before he gets down the road with the committee, come in and he would say, look, here's what I'm looking at, and we would have a discussion in that regard, and then if we approve it, he moves down the road. But then I think, in looking back and trying to figure out, where, I don't want to get so far down the road with the facilities committee doing a ton of work, getting to a spot, and we're going, well, you guys are going way the wrong direction here. And I would rather get some interim reports as we're going, and so we can all agree that they're going the right way.
And I agree with including the alternative high school, the LPO high school, in that at the early stage.
Right,
So that can be in the,
And the superintendent's going to take that on a separate track, because that's teaching and learning.
A bigger
That is,
issue,
right, that's staff, that there's a lot involved.
it's not just a structure
And so,
issue.
and then when he comes back and says, here's my recommendation on the operating philosophy of that school, and if we agree with it, okay, that tells us where it wants to be.
Okay.
I guess
agree.
my last, or not last, but next comment, I guess aligns with what Joan said, is I think we have a pretty good feel from 8,000 voters. I feel like we need to maybe get this committee developed, kind of back to the drawing board, and then take maybe some of the early thoughts out to the community in the form of a survey. And then I think we'll have maybe the information.
Well, okay, and so
you're
to
saying.
put a finer point on what you just said, which is input, we will, as the committee reports, then we could dovetail that with, at the same time, kind of a workshop environment to where the community can come and weigh in at the same time. And I think
You mean in the form of a variety of options, A, B, and C?
in the
or-
in the form of what I mean, they're
Just
going to come
dialogue.
in, they're going to give a report.
Yeah, but I don't think everybody's going to be comfortable to do that in a public setting, where some people are going to be more comfortable doing it in a survey form where they're not. I mean, I think we got to hit it on both sides.
Yeah, I see.
Well, it's,
That's
you know
like a
what?
second survey
Yeah, but
almost.
it's not
Yeah.
it's not a monolithic, one choice thing.
Sure.
You do all of the above.
Right.
People
Right.
are invited to come, and as we go through the process, if they have commentary, then we want to hear it. But I think it'd be better served if, and the reason I said, the differentiation between workshop and public comment is, a workshop is a conversation.
Sure.
And whereas public comment is someone, you have the ability to address the board. And so there's a distinction that I want to make, and I think it's an important one, and I think that it's important to go through that as we go through the process. I don't want to end up with an enormous amount of work that we get to look at the end, and then you feel like it's a yes or a no, as opposed to monitoring the process that goes along, and then if it's going in a direction that we feel is maybe not the right way to go, then we can have that discussion, make the adjustments, and then they can continue on the course.
Yeah, it's easier to make small decisions about direction than try to do it all
All
at
at
once.
the end.
Right.
I have one more comment. One of the issues with this first go-around was the public did not feel brought into the discussion early enough, as we've discussed. So with the survey, even though we don't have email addresses for many people, I feel strongly that we should have a lot of advance notice of it in the paper and on the radio or at our posting sites for sure, to allow those other community members enough warning that they know, okay, this survey's coming out, the school district doesn't have my email, but I want to, and that's whether we do an in-house one or a one through more information, so that everybody has an opportunity and they don't feel like, oh, well, the district just favored all their parents and family. It's true, those are the email addresses we have, and we don't have the public's email.
I
but
think
to
there's-
give them an opportunity.
Right, and I think there's some ways that we can broaden that. We could throw a bigger net, okay?
And still allow, because through SurveyMonkey and other tools out there that we can administer ourselves, there is anonymity still. Those emails don't come through
And some
us.
people are concerned with that and some people aren't.
Yeah.
But I would say that I think the three big things, and Matt, you brought it up and I agree with you, I think we already know what those are, and yes, it'd be
Yeah.
nice to have data and finer points, but I think we have enough to get started. I don't think we have to spend any money at this point in time. It would be lovely, but I'm just not of the persuasion that we needed to do this in the moment, and we can get this thing rolling. And anyway, so that's where I'm at. Pearlie, you're being quiet.
He's polite. Oh, wait.
I've been listening to the other input here, and my questions have been answered
Okay.
because they've already been asked.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Three main points, dollar amount,
The total dollar amount was number one.
more.
Okay. Number two was, instead of taking the industry standards on what a remodel would cost to get more specific
Yeah.
information in that regard. And then the third one is we absolutely need to get to the bottom of the LPOHS.
Yeah.
And that has to be decided at the same time, because it is the worst building that we have. And
It actually ranked right there with another one.
it wasn't the worst. Well, maybe a point away, but I think it was in a horse race with the middle school. So,
Well, and the other thing that you brought up, which I think is really important, is that we need a broader selection of candidates to serve on the committee.
Yes, that's,
well, we already covered that one.
Okay.
And it's been, I think we all agree on it, and I think it's been covered, and Mr. Woodward is totally on board with that. Matt, do you have something?
Yeah, I mean, I summarize on the survey, I think at some point a survey will make sense. I know we don't want to spend money, it's not necessary, but I think we need to be really careful on how we distribute a survey so that we don't get fooled based on the net that we're throwing out there. I know there's ways we can, channel people. I think it's going to be hard for it not to be overwhelmingly parents and teachers, just based on the ease in which we distribute that link.
Well, I
I
think
just think we have to be careful with it. so
part of
we
this
don't get fooled.
process is going to try to, is research ways to throw a bigger net.
Yep.
So we can have more folks in the database that we'd be willing to give input, and then we can also share information as we go. So I think that while we've continually asked for it, we had a place on the website for people to give input the last go-round. It wasn't, it's not like the opportunity wasn't there, but it certainly wasn't well used.
Right.
I am wondering if we should make a hard decision to throw out the idea of the route with more information without Superintendent Woodward hearing this dialogue. Hold on.
Go ahead.
I guess just with respect to the cost for that survey, for that third-party survey, what dictates the cost? Is it the number of the questions? Is it the methods in which they go out, the number of respondents we want back in? What dictates it? Because we have a lot of questions.
The number of respondents.
Okay, that's what dictates the cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And of course, the district has incurred some costs because we've been working with Moore to bring you a draft survey tonight. So costs have been incurred. The other thing that I would share for Trustee Lewis is that certainly neither my professional background nor our superintendent's professional background includes public opinion research expertise. So if we go with the option of developing a survey in-house and administering it, it will take longer to, develop some kind of expertise, and then also, of course, to administer and tabulate, and the board would just go into that with those points of information at hand.
Right.
I think part of the problem we got into last time was the public did not feel they had enough input, that it was all done in-house. So, that's just a comment. There was a lot of people that felt they didn't know anything about it. It was just sprung on them.
Well,
So I think maybe a little more,
I think we can avoid
Communicate.
that, whether it's an in-house survey or a professional survey company. I think we can avoid that mistake again. I hesitate to make.
Yep, it's all right. I don't think there's any harm in getting started the way we've outlined it without having to incur the cost of a survey. I still feel that I think we got the major points, and yes, we could put a finer point on it, and I love data, but I'm not prepared to spend that kind of money at this time. And if in 2 weeks, when the superintendent is back, if he wants to make a pitch, we can revisit it at that point in time. But I'm not prepared to approve it today.
Okay. Are you prepared to take comments tonight or ask them to?
No, I'll take
Sign
it.
it.
Look, we don't have that many things on our agenda, and we have time. So I'm going to open up for public comment. So this is, just a moment. Let me lay a few, just remind everyone, and thank you, Ms. Howells.
First.
This, it's going to stick to the 3-minute rule. This is really simple. Stick to the 3-minute rule. Please be mindful of what, of the rules, and if you're not sure, we've got them posted somewhere. And constructive comments are always appreciated. So, and
Tracy had her hand up.
Tracy?
First.
She did first, okay, thank you.
I
Wait,
just
wait.
want to,
Turn that on,
okay,
yeah.
I just wanted to offer this suggestion. I was at the city council meeting Wednesday, and they are doing a survey for the bid district. But this came out of Boise State, and they're using graduate students. They're coming up here for free to do a survey up here, and it's not costing the city anything. So I was just offering that suggestion. That might be an option. because
Wait, this was the city of Sandpoint?
The city of Sanford, but it's through Boise State.
They-
And it's their graduate students. They are kind of
They're
canvassing
commissioning.
the state to have opportunities to do this. So
Okay.
that might be an option.
Yeah, it
something
is.
to look into.
Thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay.
Just a moment. Sir with the yellow tie.
It's Randy.
And when you all come up, please give your name and you don't have to give your exact address, but where you live.
Sure. Is this live?
It is.
My name is Randy Stoltz. I've known Mrs. Lewis probably for 25 years. Mr. Youngdahl might remember me from my prediction the Friday before the levy that you guys were going to be lucky to draw a third. I'm a 50-year resident of Bonner County. Born, bred, and corn-fed. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my mom. Because Mom voted against this last levy, and she's never done that before in her life that I'm aware of. Our family has always supported Bonner County schools. The three of my brothers and I were all three public ed products of the Bonner County system, and in addition, I went to Boise State University. By the way, do look into getting their MPA program involved in your survey process. I think it'd be a very cost-effective way to get some things done at a cheap rate. I've subbed in those buildings. Every one of them has been a crying need for a generation in many cases. But we need to figure out some creative ways to skin a cat on the cheap. This school district has always been behind the 8 ball in my lifetime. We have never been caught up. I know people that refer to the current high school as the new high school. My brothers and I never attended. My brother John graduated the year before it was complete. But we supported that school because we knew we needed a high school. We needed a high school for the 15 years that the three of us were involved in education in this county. I remember Sagal School before it was demoed. I remember the original red brick wing from the 20s. I went to school in that for 6 years. But you guys need to get people like my mom back. You really do. She cannot afford the tax bill that would have accrued with a $55 million levy. I'm not sure I can. We've got needs. They need to be squared away, with all deliberate speed. But we need to be creative. We need to be cost effective. We need to be measured. And I really appreciate hearing your comments tonight, because I came in here going $18,000 for survey research. Take that money and give your paraprofessionals on the ground in the schools, in the trenches, working 6 hours a day with special ed kids that are working at starvation wages, give them a break. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
You see me. I don't even need to go to the podium. I'm Debbie Trinan, and Steve, I just want to thank you for your comments tonight. I'm behind you 100%.
Oh, wow. Wait a second. I need a drink of water.
I don't think that's strong enough.
Anita.
Bourbon, the scotch, and the beer.
I heard you talk about SurveyMonkey. If that is a survey instrument that you're planning to use, I would be skeptical, because I've tried to participate in a SurveyMonkey survey in the Bee, and it was a railroading job. It was about the trail, the Ponderay Trail, or more trails for the city. And you could not give the answer that you wanted to give. It was predetermined that they wanted a certain outcome, and I don't think we want that. So if SurveyMonkey is going to be an instrument...
I just threw out the only free one I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the other
Doesn't have to be
ones.
that one, but we want to use something, I agree
That's
with you,
free.
Anita. We want to use something that provides an avenue for input, and we're not trying to corral it in any one direction.
Right.
We're trying to throw a big net and find out, really what's on the minds.
Right. Thank
So
you.
thanks for your comment. I mean, you know what, we've used it a ton for different things that I know of, so it's something that gets widely used. It may not be a fit in this application.
It's a matter of how you construct it.
It is. You can have it wide
And it
open.
might be diverse, I don't know.
SurveyMonkey is just a delivery tool.
Yeah.
It's not, the questions were written, the questions were the problem with the people who wrote them, not the...
Got it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sir.
So in regards to...
Your name, sir?
Angelo Lancicero.
Thank you.
In regards to the firm that we're anticipating using, you talked about a 200-person sample. It seems like an awful small sample for the amount of people we have in the district.
For the phone call? You mean
Yeah.
for the phone call?
Yeah, and I asked the same thing when I had heard that, although I think it's a moot point at this time.
I think it's just money.
But apparently, these folks have, it's their expertise, and just like when they do polls and things like that, you look at the numbers and you're going, how could that possibly be?
Well, statistical research can be stilted in any fashion.
Absolutely.
You want,
No, and I understand that, okay? But we'll dive deeper into it if we, and your comments well taken. I think we'll dive deeper into that if we go down that road. I'm not convinced we need to go down that road at this time.
What the citizens really want is they want a really super open process.
I think I just laid it out.
I think it's the
You kinda
phone
laid it
part
out as,
only.
having a workshop, having more people on the facilities planning committee from the community itself, and not going in with a certain idea, pre-programmed into people. And we want to see, alternatives laid out. We want to see, do we really need to replace this school? Can we do a remodel? What the hard cost would that be?
So you're agreeing with what we just discussed? then?
I'm agreeing with it to a certain point, but I think you really have to key in on public involvement. the public really needs to be involved.
Yeah.
And even at the point where you're talking about having the committee come back to the board and make a presentation on an interim basis, you really need to open that process up to the people that are here.
I think we just laid that out.
Yeah.
So I thank you, I want to thank you for agreeing, by the way, because it's, no, serious, look, I didn't mean to, I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, we have a problem that we need to solve.
Yeah.
And, the more people that, are in the process, the better result you're going to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
And I also wanted to find out about, I know this is in the form of a question, but how much money we've paid this firm thus far?
Lisa?
We haven't paid them anything.
You said there were costs that were already
My expectation is that
There'll be some base
that
bill
there'll be
for,
some billing based on the draft survey that we've asked them to put together for the board to review.
And as far as the fund that you have, the reserve fund, or the funds that are left over, what amount would that be?
How much would I anticipate more information billing us?
No, you had stated that you would pay that money for more out of a certain fund of unused money. What's the amount of that money that's sitting in that account?
The cumulative amount year over year right now is about $120,000.
Okay, great, thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
You know,
There's one more.
one of the things you said was really important. I think the last committee, to some extent, had people on the committee that had their own agenda. And they didn't really look outside and get people who maybe did not have that agenda. That's just my comment. And that's some of the things that were said to me about it.
Okay. Do we have any?
She had one.
Who?
Right here.
If you can come up to the lectern and give your name and where you're from.
I'm Susan Miller from Salem, and I really appreciate what you all said, because it sounded like you've heard and you read, and you're really going to be working with the community. So my question or suggestion, whatever it is we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent in this community, and a lot of people who have already done what we want to do. So instead of reinventing the wheel in throwing out your big net, you might want to contact, because I talk to people who've done this kind of work.
The
And
surveying, you mean?
Surveying
Yeah.
and building and raising funds to just use the community and the talents we have instead of going outside and figuring out something. People have moved here from these big cities that have participated in this very thing. So instead of trying it.
Can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Okay. If you know these people, would you reach out to them and ask them to contact the superintendent?
Most assuredly.
Thank you.
Ma'am, some of us are homegrown.
Never. That's enough. You're out of line. Please don't do that.
Yes.
But thank you very much for your comments. And if you would do that, and then it would be appreciated.
And they are part of this community.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. It's good. Okay. I don't see any more hands. The next.
Tell one more.
Where? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm late.
You have to move the mic.
Hi, my name's Jim Baldry. I'm south of the river in Sagal. I've got 2 kids. Well, we're down to 1 in the high school. She's a junior. My eldest just graduated this last year go around. I'm kind of here because I've been chatting with a guy I know, one of your old principals, Steve Johnson, and we've been throwing ideas back and forth, and we had a little pre-election discussion, and unfortunately my prediction was correct and his was wrong. But Mr. Johnson finally just said, hey, maybe you should go down and see how things work and possibly get involved. I'm like, okay. So that's why I'm here. Talking with the people that I've been around, I see it as kind of almost an image problem for the school district. And I had a lot of suggestions written down, and you guys have covered them, a good portion of them. So I'm just going to throw out a little bit of a broad brush for you. As a consumer of your product, consumer of any product, the phrase I hate more than anything hearing is, oh, by the way.
By the way.
Oh, by the way. I'm new here. We came up from Phoenix. I've been here for 4 years now. In that time, I'm going to throw out that I've been hit with 3 bond issues for the school. One of them isn't actually for the school, it's for the city. But let's be honest, Memorial Field, the school is the majority consumer of that service. And if you talk to a lot of people, they're going to look at the two as being pretty well intertwined. We had the override 2 years ago for the extracurricular programs. Then came the vote for Memorial Field. And now, oh, by the way, we've got a facility thing. And oh, by the way, the alternative high school is going to need work too. Gentlemen and ladies, we need a long-term plan. Desperately communicate to the public what the school district is doing, where it is, where it's going, and how we're going to get there, and the funds that are going to be needed to accomplish that. Long-term projects really need to be hit with long-term funding. Granted, by the time all this gets done, my kids are gone, and I'm still willing to crack my wallet out. Listening to the gentleman over here, you really need to address his mother. If my mother is alive, you need to be addressing her. If you're going to send emails out to district employees and parents, yeah, you're going to get a really skewed sample. You've got a great little community here, but everybody really needs to be involved and supporting what you guys have going, what you want to do. All the stuff I've read in the paper, talking to various people, we're missing that long-term thought process of, hey, here's where we're at, here's where we're going. Quick suggestion for you. You've got a lot of new businesses, things coming up around here that are growing. Throwing some out, Cachava, Quest. You've got Lighthouse. You've got a few future employers around here that really need to be involved in this process, that really need to wrap around your vision and need to be able to communicate that to the community as well. Get them behind it. One of the things talking about with Mr. Johnson.
Jim, you're over 3 already, so please wrap it up. I like what you're saying, but I mean, we're limited to 3.
Let me give you the short version, I guess. Get other people from the community behind your vision. Expanding out the facilities, getting other people on there, showing the need. Avoid oh, by the way. Quit hitting us with oh, by the way. Best comment I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim, oh, by the way, thank you. Okay. Moving right along. We have, is Melanie here? I think I saw her. So, there she is. We have the approval for the second read of 5 policies. I believe, if memory serves me, the last time we went through this, we actually didn't have any changes, or did we?
We did.
There were no changes to what was proposed.
To what was proposed. Okay. So, are there any second thoughts? Any additional questions for Melanie in this regard?
I do not have any.
I don't have any.
I'll entertain a motion. And just give the you can do all 5 at once and just do the policy numbers.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the second reading of policies 2200, 5210, 5220, 5225, and 5340 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any more discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Melanie.
So I need to delete 2.
Wait a second. Say that again?
There is a second motion that's been proposed to delete 2 policies that are now incorporated
That's what I was just saying to you.
into the newly adopted policy.
So I'd like to make a motion that we delete board policies 602.4 and 603.6 since they've been incorporated into those previous 5.
Yes.
Second.
Jones, second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks for pointing that out, Melanie. Okay, approval of graduation dates. Superintendent is not here, and I think I'm going to lean on Mr. Albertson, since you're probably in contact with all the principals of these schools. This is pretty much the same thing that we've been doing now this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Correct.
And it looks like nothing's changed in that regard, and it appears to be working.
Correct.
And we moved your school from Saturday to Friday. Why?
Why? There was public input from some parents, basically, that gave them the weekend to spend more time with the family that were coming into town, having their own graduation parties over the Saturday, Sunday. I know when the Heinz, kind of made the grad night a little bit of a push on Friday was a downfall, but then having the whole weekend to spend with their families.
Just curiosity, where are you going to hold this?
It also is the very last day of school for all other students, and we were allowed, it made it much easier for the band to be there, to play the pomp and circumstances.
Right.
Versus school's out, you still got to come back Saturday and play the pomp and circumstances became a little bit of an issue.
All right. Because it's been Saturday for so long, I just
Is
was...
this third year as Friday?
Correct.
This will be the third. This will be,
third.
right. Where are you going to hold it? You figured that out yet?
Memorial Field.
Really? Just bring your own chair, huh?
That's supposed to be done.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So, do we need a motion for that?
We do.
I make a motion, we approve the graduation dates for Clark Fork, LPO, and Sandpoint High School as listed.
I'd second that motion.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion in this regard? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The ISBA annual conference, which is held the week of November 7th, there's several of us that are going to attend, so it starts on Tuesday the 8th, which is a normal board meeting, so we need to amend the calendar to move the meeting date. Otherwise, it's like holding a party and nobody comes, so.
Yeah, nobody will be there.
Yeah.
We'll be listening to election returns.
So,
Okay, so we need a motion to...
well, what, did you check what?
Change the date.
Oops, damn it. Did you check with the center here and find out what the open dates were?
For the ISBA convention?
No, for us
Oh,
to.
yes.
Yes.
The first, we cannot have it on the
Okay,
1st,
thanks.
November 1st.
on November
Thank you.
1st, but we could hold it at the district office. That Monday prior is open on their calendar. I would just have to confirm with the event center if we held it on.
So the Monday the 7th, you mean?
Yes,
Or,
Monday, I believe it's.
Or
the
Tuesday
6th.
the 1st, which would be at the district office. She
Right.
said there's 2 days.
yeah. So does anyone have any preferences of whether it's Tuesday the 1st or if it's Monday the 7th?
I think Tuesday the 1st is a better choice.
Keeps us on
Because
Tuesdays.
we'll have all the amendments by then that are proposed, so give us a little time to think that over.
I agree with Joan. Keeping it on a Tuesday is consistent.
Guys?
Here, go ahead, Matt.
Either option is fine with me. Seems like Tuesday might make more sense since those who are going down to Boise are going to be leaving that next
The
morning.
next,
Yeah.
Kelly leaves next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I repeat what Matt said.
Okay.
Either one works for me, but I think the Tuesday the 1st.
Tuesday the 1st?
Probably a better day.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We're all in agreement, Tuesday the 1st?
Yep.
At the district office.
It'll be at the district office, but,
Wanna make
we could probably make that happen.
Steve, you want me to make a motion for that?
Yes, please.
I will make a motion that we move the scheduled board meeting of November 8th to Tuesday, November 1st at the district office.
Second.
Then move second. Any more discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You don't have to compete with Mr. Woodward today, so do you have any announcements?
I have two announcements. Hannah Pingle, senior at Sandpoint High School, was nominated as a National Merit finalist, semi-finalist, excuse me, still be in the running for finalists, so that will still to become. So it's very great for that high academic achievement. Semi-finalist means that she is in the top 16,000 of students who took, it's based off the PSAT, last year taken as a junior class, so high academic achievements there. And then Riley Wolf was on the commendation list, so he's in the top 32,000. So two Sandpoint High School students with very high academic achievements, so very proud of them.
Great.
Very nice.
Nice
Very
to hear
nice.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
I think we have, well,
Do you have any other principals?
yes, we
yeah.
have one other one.
I guess the only announcement that I would have is that I'm very grateful that Hope's enrollment is up from what we anticipated.
Yeah, and what is it?
111.
I saw 111. Yeah, no, I mean I saw it, but I don't commit that to memory. So that's actually up quite a bit, isn't it?
We ended the year about 107,
Okay.
but what was anticipated was below 100.
Yeah.
So it's a big, yeah.
Right.
Good.
Well, there's always surprises with the first week of school.
I have two announcements, since I've been so quiet all.
Yes, sir. You gotta make up for it now, huh?
I'll make up for it now.
Okay.
Clark Fork won their homecoming football game. They trounced their opponent.
Nice.
And I accompanied the Homeschool Academy on their field trip up Trestle Creek last Wednesday. It was a great group, and I want to thank Melinda for inviting me along.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I saw it in the paper.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm not sure. I don't know what the current. The last I heard it was up to 24, but I think he was expecting more.
Melinda told me 27.
27.
They're up to 27.
Okay.
That was as of last Wednesday.
Right on.
That's
And
great.
by the way, the state board, in that regard, the State Board of Ed is very excited. They're watching very carefully what we're doing to see if we can, we can create a model for other districts in the state. And as far as they know, it's a historic event because no one else has created a homeschool academy that they know of.
Through the public schools, yeah.
Yes, and so, anyway, once again, we're on the leading edge, and that Mr. Woodward made that whole thing happen, and kudos to him, so. Okay, well, thank you all for coming, appreciate it, the meeting's adjourned.
Good, hammer.